Hi there, everyone. Just some ordinary dude here, and I'm here with another edition of Discussions with the Dude. Um, Today, I've got my favourite entourage of people. We've got a fictional media bully. How are you doing today, Dosser?
Oh, I'm blushing. How can you say favourite?
Yeah, and we've also got Alana Mari with us. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good.
And also, we've got Gilbert Gann. How are you?
Still reeling after the typhoon.
Okay, so today what we decided we're going to discuss is favourite Disney Channel shows, mainly cartoons I suppose we'll be focusing on. Just obviously Disney has created a lot of cartoons over the years. You've got your Phineas and Ferbs, your Amphibians, your Owl Houses, and even some like your classic shows from years ago like your Kim Possibles and stuff like that. There's plenty to actually talk about when regarding this subject. And I know, like, some of my friends here, they've seen quite a lot of different Disney shows over the years, and they've got quite a lot to say. So we're just going to sort of touch on some of the high points of the Disney shows from the last 20, 30 years or whatever. So does anyone want to start this one off?
How about we let Alana start?
Okay, so do you want me to just like name off a few or just say like my favorite?
Yeah, just like whatever Disney Channel cartoons come to your mind, just sort of like say them and just briefly elaborate on why you like them so much.
Well, I'd definitely say like my favorite is Gravity Falls. I love that show so much.
Yeah,
And also I really love The Owl House and Amphibia. Those are like would be like my top three favorite.
that's pretty cool. Those are some pretty good choices from what I could tell. They're all very popular shows that people really like. Um, and what specifically about say Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and the Owl House? Are you really what makes you a fan of those shows?
Well, especially with Gravity Falls, I really like how they set up like the whole plot. I really like the first season because it's a little bit less like story driven and it's kind of a bit more episodic, but they still kind of put a little bit of the story in it. And
Yeah.
then like by like the second season, it gets a bit more
Yeah. Is it?
like
It's fair to say with Gravity.
serialized.
Yeah, with Gravity Falls, would you say it's fair to say that the first season's a bit more? It's more like set up and it's a bit more grounded and all that sort of thing. And then in the in the first season, then later on in the second season, it gets a bit, a bit faster, a bit more high stakes, a bit. It's more about payoff. It gets even more supernatural. It gets like bigger in scope. That sort. Is that a fair assessment of it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I just love all the characters too,
Yeah. Fair
of course.
enough.
I love Mabel.
Mm.
Oh yeah, same.
I love Wendy.
Oh yeah, she's great.
I've only
It's not
seen some of
it's not
Gravity
about
Falls,
her.
so you have to bear with me. I'm only going on fake like information here.
Also, Grunkle Stan's hilarious.
Yeah.
And I can't stop drooling at Wendy sometimes.
Okay.
I would I would definitely say Gravity Falls is my favourite of the Disney Channel programs, even though I haven't seen it in several years now. It's very, very well written. Very, it's a very engaging mystery story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This.
it's kind of an many fans would have thought it would have been that similar way of to the Illuminati or something.
Is it
The
And
fair
I
to
like
Illuminati.
how
say?
like if you watch it multiple times, you can like notice things that you didn't notice like
Uh,
on the first time you
Yeah.
watched it.
is it fair to say? And this might be a bit of a stretch. Is Gravity Falls maybe Disney Channel's answer to Nickelodeon's Avatar? And what I mean by that is it's a really high quality, well regarded show that's very short but sweet. It only has like 2 or 3 seasons. It didn't last that long, but what we got was really, really great. And it lasted the perfect amount of time it should have to stay great throughout the whole time. would you say that's a good comparison?
Yeah, I'd say so.
But
Yeah,
okay,
like
yeah,
it didn't go on too long to where it got bad or anything.
no. Well, actually, if you
Uh,
think about it, what does it have? 2 times 13 episodes, I think. It's
Like
not
three
actually that
seasons.
much when you think about it.
if I remember, I I think each season had 26 episodes,
Or did it?
roughly.
Yeah.
I think so. So
I'm out.
It's like
really,
20 episodes, right?
Okay,
it
so
has
yeah,
even though it has one season less than Avatar, it has nearly as many episodes.
yeah, because that had what 3 times 20 episodes, didn't it?
Yeah.
So that had 60
Total 40
episodes.
total
Then
40 episodes, to be honest, since it's only 2 seasons.
oh,
Okay. Was it 26 or was it just 20 episodes? I can't remember.
in fact,
20,
let's
20
just
something.
let me
20,
just look it up. Gravity
it's only 20
Falls.
episodes.
Gravity
It's 20 episodes.
Falls.
I already got it in Google Drive.
Right. Yeah, if I just quickly. Yeah, the 20 episodes per season, so it's 40 episodes, which is still not bad. It's still quite a lot.
In fact, actually, if I do have an issue with Gravity Falls, and it's an entirely subjective one, it's entirely subjective. I would have liked if it had at least a third season.
Well, yeah, but then
Oh,
again, that third season might have sucked because they had no intention of doing the story past that point.
I'm just saying, I would like to live in a universe where Gravity Falls did have three brilliant seasons
Yeah,
as opposed to
That
just
would have
two
been cool
brilliant
though,
ones.
yeah.
yeah,
Because it's just one of those shows where it's so good you want it to last at least just a tiny bit longer.
yeah. Fair enough.
It's very well done, and
Yeah, but the ending was so good. I loved it.
Yeah, Weird
it
It was
Mageddon.
perfect.
Yeah,
yeah, we're mainly gonna. I think we're for the most part gonna talk about the more modern cartoons because
yeah.
Gravity Falls pretty much set the standard for Disney Channel programs going forward. Like Phineas and Ferb kind of was that at first, but Phineas and Ferb was a lot more formulaic and episodic. And
Well, yeah,
bear in mind, I love Phineas and Ferb; it's a brilliant
yeah.
program.
Well,
But
with Phineas and Ferb, and maybe it's worth going to that one next. You've got to sort of understand why that became so big. And I think part of the reason is, if you all remember, in the late 2000s, yes, okay, we had Avatar and all that, but apart from that, there wasn't a lot going on great for the animation industry. It obviously, like in the late 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of it was dominated by like the cartoons on Cartoon Network and that sort of thing. They died out by the mid 2000s. And even though we had things like, South Park was still going pretty strong at this time, and obviously you had Avatar and you had the start of Ben 10 and all that, a lot of the animation industry wasn't doing well. Like Disney Channel barely did any animation at the time. They were mostly doing live action shows at this point. Cartoon Network, surprisingly enough, wasn't doing that many cartoons either, and the ones it were doing weren't anything special. Um, and then you had Nickelodeon. Apart from Avatar, they didn't have that many great cartoons going on either at the time. And then all of a sudden, late 2000s, a new show comes out on Disney Channel, Phineas and Ferb. And looking back at it, it's a really great, really fun show. It's nothing exceptional, but it came out at a time that was perfect for it to achieve its maximum level of success because there really wasn't a lot else going on. And suddenly, this new show comes out on Disney Channel. It has tons of life and energy and and fun moments and nice characters and all that sort of thing. And it's just such an appealing, fun breath of fresh air for particularly for the children's realm of animation. And as a result, I think it just took off so well because it came out at the perfect time to really breathe life back into animation. And obviously, after that, you'd then get your Adventure Time, your regular show, your Amazing World of Gumball, your My Little Pony, etc., etc., and you get like a renaissance of animation. But Phineas and Ferb kind of kicked that off, if you think about it.
Pretty much. Yeah, minor unrelated tangent, but seeing Real was the worst thing Cartoon Network ever did.
Don't even know what that is, but it sounds like shit.
Like they decided, like a Cartoon Network decided to do live action programs, and it's like if you take away the cartoons, it's just network.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it
that's kind of
corrupt
weird. That doesn't really
network.
make any sense.
If you actually think
More
about
better
it,
than that.
yeah.
The network.
No, you could call it corrupt network because they both begin with C, and I think they're both 7 letters long. Yeah, cartoon and corrupt.
How about TNT?
Uh,
That's hilarious.
uh.
TNT.
So yeah, so in the late 2000s we had Corrupt Network, we had Nickelodeon that despite doing Avatar was also doing a lot of other shit, as they usually do, and Disney
Yeah,
Channel really wasn't doing any cartoons at the time, so Phineas and Ferb was definitely a breath of fresh air. And looking back at it,
Oh,
I really liked Phineas and Ferb.
what do I
It,
man?
it
Probably
had
the
I was a
peak.
really big fan at the time, like around 2010 sort of thing when it was out. Um, I was into. Watched pretty much all the episodes. I really liked the movie. There was a time I actually sort of considered the Phineas and Ferb movie to be in my top 10 films. That was back when I was younger, of course. It was a really good film though, and it was just a really fun story. Like a really fun show. Um, it was very repetitive, which was part of its formula, but it would usually tweak it up with every episode enough to the point where it was fun enough each time. Obviously, that approach did get a bit stale after a while, which is why I think season 4 in particular started to deviate away from that and do different things. And obviously, I think you guys already know now. Phineas and Ferb is coming back.
Yep, I'm
Yeah,
aware.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm actually a little bit skeptical because if they are to bring it back, I think they should do something different this time. Don't just go back to the old formula. You've been there, you've done that, you've done. It was already getting stale by the end of the first run. Do different things this time. Don't just have it be, Phineas and Ferb build something, Candice tries to bust the Perry and Doofenshmirtz fight, We've had 4 seasons of that. Do something
yeah. We
different
don't
with
need
the
to do
world
those.
you've built and the characters you've got.
Hmm.
But I don't know if they will.
Yeah, it's time.
Phineas and Ferb
It's
is
time to change the cliche.
sorry, Gilbert.
It's time to change the cliches that are in the show.
Yeah. Time to change the whole status quo, if you like, about it.
Makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, I love Phineas and Ferb, if mainly because of just how like over the top levels of contrived it is.
Yeah, I mean, Phineas and Ferb. It's one of those shows where everything somehow connects together. Like Phineas and Ferb's inventions are always somehow got rid of in a ridiculously over the top way by whatever Perry and Doofenshmirtz are doing just before Candice brings her mother back home, and it's like, wow, how does that always fucking happen every single time without fail?
Also, they
I
kind
I,
of
I remember one episode where Candace came over to Doofenshmirtz because of what Doof's daughter,
Vanessa,
and
yeah,
Vanessa.
like there was some like there was like a contraption that Candace was sitting next to and was calling her mom to check it, and she accidentally pushed the button, which got rid of Phineas and Ferb's invention immediately.
yeah. And then it got to the point where in the movie she thought that there was a mysterious force that was stopping her from busting her brothers all the time.
uh,
Yeah, it was really.
if Phineas and Ferb was aimed if Phineas and Ferb was more of an adult cartoon, they probably would have had Candace say something like "God hates me."
Yeah. And to
Hey
be honest, they could
Alana,
probably say that anyway.
Alana, God
Yeah.
hates Candace.
Hey,
Yeah.
I want to say this about Phineas and Ferb once they revive it. The one thing they need to tone down is the stereotypes.
Right. In what
Stereotypes?
You've
in
seen that
what
with
regard?
yeah, you've seen that with that one episode where Perry and Duke were in Canada, right? And what I've seen on that episode alone were a bunch of stereotypes about Canadians.
What, they like happy-go-lucky or something?
No, like such as the moose and I don't know
Well, I
what.
don't know. It's one of those, isn't it? I mean, with sort of children's cartoons, a lot of the time they will like put in sort of not particularly offensive stereotypes, but like well known, if you like, stereotypes, just for the sake of, I guess, a bit of quick comedy. Whether or not you're really into that, I suppose, depends on you. Um, Obviously, like the Loud House would do the same thing. Fictional Media Bully here has went on many times about school and how it did lots of stereotypes of
That's
Canada
what
and all that sort of thing.
that's what I was saying because they should really tone down the stereotypes in most shows.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that depends.
I suppose.
I don't mind stereotypes as much if it was written by people who are of that culture. Like Scold was directed by Canadians.
Yeah, that makes it a lot better, actually.
So really, when you learn that the Canadians directed it, then you can know then you're aware that they're just having fun.
I suppose.
Right.
I don't know if I don't know if Phineas and Ferb had any Canadian writers or directors. I'm trying to think now.
It could have. I don't know.
Yeah. And here's another thing about Phineas and Ferb. Its creator, Dan Povenmire, he's a big fan and
Oppenheimer.
user of your favourite website, Fictional Media Bully.
Yeah, you told me.
He's a big fan of TV tropes. He even had the eviler than Val trope name dropped in the movie.
All right, whatever. That's amusing, I guess.
Yeah, FMB here really hates TV tropes, everyone. It gets them on rage quit mode.
It just gets me on brain numb mode, really.
Alright.
Yeah, don't get him started, bro.
It's especially when they get so many facts wrong. It's ridiculous. But okay, enough of Phineas and Ferb and Gravity Falls, because after Gravity Falls, the next big Disney cartoon, which actually started on Disney XD, was Star versus the Forces of Evil.
Alright, and you have a
Oh, yeah.
lot of things to say about this one, don't you?
Oh,
Like,
don't get me started with that show.
like,
Okay?
I won't go into much because Star is not one of my favorite Disney programs, but I will say it's probably my favorite one conceptually.
Yeah.
When I started watching it back in 2021, was it? It was actually after Gravity Falls. I was like, might as well give it a try and see what it's like. I initially couldn't get into it, but then in the second season, I really got into it because suddenly the story took an interesting direction.
Yeah.
And then you get to the third season, which I'd probably say is my favorite one, if mainly because of Eclipsa.
Yeah.
Like Alana, Eclipsa,
Yeah, I remember.
like she's easily the best character of the program, honestly.
Yeah.
Remember, she was voiced by Esme Blanco from Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's interesting.
She was which character in Game of Thrones?
Esme, Esme Blanco from Game of Thrones,
SP
the
Blanco.
actress herself.
Oh,
mean,
you're talking about
Esme
the
Blanco.
actress. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily remember the actress's name. Yeah.
It's hilarious you mention. It's hilarious you mention Game of Thrones because get this, both Star versus the Forces of Evil and the Game of Thrones ended on the same date.
And they were both known for having very bad, infamous endings.
Yep.
Yeah, shitty ending.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like that day must have been cursed or something. Well, actually, no. In the case of Game of Thrones, it was gradually going downhill for a few seasons at that point. But that's maybe a discussion for another time.
Star versus the Forces of Evil, it went downhill as soon as season 4.
Yeah. So basically, the last season just
Hello.
really sucked, and yeah.
FMB, season 4
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Season 4 does not exist.
yeah. Let's pretend it does exist. It was a mess.
Yeah,
Oh my
it was
god.
Ascended. Yeah, maybe season 4 was Ascended fan fiction.
They spent
It's
so
probably
much
just
time on the boring stuff.
shitty writing.
Yeah,
The writing in that season was so awful, unbelievable.
yeah, yeah,
Again, lazy writing.
yeah.
Like,
Absolutely
like,
lazy.
like it was the season where everyone decided, let's forget about Chekhov's gun.
Yep, pretty much. And you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? And here's another thing: season 4, it was still written by professionals. Just saying.
I don't even know what happened. It's like it's it,
One of them
it
is a fan artist.
oh, fan
One of
artist.
the storyboarders is one of them is a fan artist from Phineas and Ferb that work as a storyboard revisionist.
How did they
Oh,
get a
okay.
job?
Oh, that's interesting.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, because I'd like, as
If
a fan, I'd like to get
I'll
a
give you a
bloody
hint.
job working on a cartoon, as you all
I'll
well
give you a
know.
hint. I'll give you a hint. She's actually the same person that designed the older characters for Phineas and Ferb's At Your Age.
Right.
That is compelling. I would
Yeah,
say
I didn't know that.
that is interesting, and yeah, I think like I'm aware that you, Alana, do like Star versus despite its issues.
Yeah, I still like the show. Like, it's not perfect by any means, but I still enjoy it. Like, generally.
It's basically, imagine if a Western person made a magical girl anime,
Oh,
Yeah.
and let's just say leave it to the Japanese to do it.
Yeah. Well, to be
definitely.
honest, if you actually look at most anime, they're not written very well. I've watched a few anime over the years, some of the most popular ones actually, and
Attack on Titan was the peak anime for me.
it's like they're not
So good.
written very
But
well. It's like style over substance, that sort of thing. They look usually, if they're successful, they look really nice and have some great action scenes and all that bollocks. But if you actually look at the writing and the story, it falls apart under the most basic form of scrutiny. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, FMB here, he's a big fan of the Pokemon anime, but whenever he talks about it, he's usually bitching about everything that it does wrong.
I
like
do like
Seizure.
I do enjoy the Diamond and Pearl anime, but it ended on such a weak note.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
yeah,
But it is what it is. But I have to say though, after Star Versus, shows like Amphibia and the Owl House were a breath of fresh air.
yeah. I mean,
Like Amphibia is one of my favorites as well.
yeah,
Like
Right.
Amphibia, it starts off very slow. You have a solid but somewhat flawed first season. Like this is something I heard. Matt Braley was apparently pressured by Disney to make the show episodic in the first season. So so he had to work with his limitations, and what he did essentially was, even though every episode was kind of disconnected, they would have a lot of these little seed planting bits that set up events in the next two seasons.
yeah,
Yeah, and that still works though too. Like,
Yeah, and of course, Amphibia got really good in the second season.
yeah,
oh, I love the second season.
Like, it's not my favorite. My favorite is the third season, but season two is a close one. It's very well done, especially the second
Still
half.
season 2 is stronger than the finale.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, like,
The
like,
season 2 finale was a shocker.
like when when I saw the episode True Colors, like it had a good setup, and then it got interesting with the toads invading, and then you learn about the king's real intentions, and it's like, whoa.
It's true
It's like
intention.
Sasha and Grimes discover that, and it's like it's a good thing we stopped him. Oh my gosh! And they fail anyway because well, Sasha lost Anne's trust.
yeah. 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 Yeah.
it's like, yeah, the consequences of trying to manipulate your friends. They eventually backstab you, rightfully so, and then you get the stuff with Marcy, and it's like very very interesting. Like Marcy's like struggles of. I, I heard you haven't seen the show, dude, so I probably won't spoil it much. But like True Colors is just it has a very shocking
I
moment at the
know
end.
of
It's
I
ridiculous.
know of the basic direction of the show to a point, even though I haven't really seen it. I don't really mind if you do spoilers. I normally get spoilers before I watch these shows anyway. So
Okay, I'll try and say it like this. Imagine getting a fire sword stabbed right through your chest,
okay,
Yeah, they put that
Alana.
in a description.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
they put
crazy
that in
though.
so
Honestly,
somebody
like I didn't even
stabs
expect
somebody
that.
with a fire sword.
yeah, Marcy
Like the
being that.
first time I saw that moment, it's like, wow, this is a children's cartoon.
They put like a warning like in the beginning of the
Yeah, they
episode.
Did they
put a
really?
This episode has some intense final scenes. It may be scary for younger viewers.
No, because children are far more exposed to this kind of stuff than people actually admit. Like, you know the story. When I was a kid, when I was 9 years old, everybody I knew my age had Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And it was an 18 plus game. So, kids are exposed to this stuff all the time. They'll find a way to, watch adult stuff. So, nothing a kid's show would do was probably going to scare them.
It's just that when you see a kids' cartoon do something like this, it's a lot more shocking than an adult one.
I guess. Yeah, if
Yeah.
South Park did that, they'd be like, well, that's tame.
And then you get the third season, which, like I said, is my favorite, especially the first half.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
That was
The writing in season 3 is just really good. Like, there's so many clever, witty jokes.
Fair enough.
Like, especially in the episode Sprig's Birthday, where you have the eye contact and clown face joke, and it's so funny.
Oh, I remember that.
and smug face is all up and going to get me. That
It's
smug face versus
there's just so like there's even the moment like when the in the episode Hot Till You Drop where like Polly gets angry at the babies and one of the babies actually breaks his bottle of milk and it's like what like using it to stab or something. My gosh.
I mean,
Oh man.
turning it into a prison shank. Like what? What the heck was that?
It's like the program is able to get away with so many little stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you know how to get crap past the radar, you can get away with a lot of stuff, surprisingly.
Why about this moment from Anne when she got her dental surgery?
Oh, yeah, something like yeah.
Oh, listen, Domino is not just a cat. He's the alpha and omega.
Yeah. Alright.
Which, minor spoiler, Chekhov's gun.
Alright, yeah.
Because when you get to the ending, there is a moment, and it is very surprising how that one bit of comedy is actually real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I suppose,
Partially.
so with Amphibia, I suppose it's one of those things where, again, it lasted, what was it, 3 seasons, this show? And, obviously, again, it started off slow, but still solid, and got better and better. And overall, it's, I think, highly regarded as a very good animated show.
Very well done.
Yeah, so obviously you've got Amphibia, and around the same time as that, obviously, you also had another short-lived cartoon, The Owl House, and that, again, it only lasted a very short span of time, but for the time it was there, it got very popular. Again, it's another show I've not really watched a lot of, so I'll let you guys take this one again. General thoughts?
The Owl House did have some controversy related to Disney, as far as I'm aware, where they said they shortened season 3 because it did not fit their brand.
That's the one that really triggered hate band. That's the one that really triggered fans out of anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in all fairness, considering what was going against it, they did really well within their limitations. Like season one, I'm rewatching Our House recently. Season one starts off a bit dull, but then you get to I think it was what episode 3 or 4 or 5, and it does actually start to get more interesting, where you see the chemistry explored more, character dynamics explored more, like some more interesting lore and such. And from what I remember, the second season was really good.
Oh yeah, the second season was amazing.
Like
Yeah,
it's
season two was peak of the show.
probably one of the best seasons of a modern animated children's program that I've seen actually. And season three, which is really just a few hour long specials, is also very good. Even though you can clearly tell they had to crunch a lot to finish the story because of Disney's well politics.
Doesn't, or should say, doesn't value their standards, their quote unquote standards. There's no
Yeah,
excuse to that.
I will
Yeah, I
say
really
that.
wish they could have like extended it because it was kind of sad, but like they did a really good job like ending it with like what little time they had.
Yeah, though I will say one criticism I do have for the Owl House, and this is a criticism that partially extends to Amphibia. Some of the animation is a bit stiff.
Oh, definitely, I agree.
Like season one has generally solid animation all the way through, with some really amazing high points. Season two, the animation is a bit more budget restricted, but it's still generally solid. And then you get to season three, only the action scenes look genuinely good.
Yeah, like the action scenes look so good, but like that's I guess that's where they had to put all the budget
Yeah.
because
And going back to anime, I suppose that it used a similar approach to that, where the action scenes look great, and then all the scenes in between, they're really budget restricted and just don't look very good at all.
Like
That's what animes do, yeah.
it's a kind of like you could turn the you could turn the screen off and you'd still understand a decent amount of it.
Yeah.
In other words, illustrated radio.
Oh dear. And we know how much you don't like illustrated radio, don't we?
Don't get me wrong, the Owl House is great. It's a great program, and I do appreciate it being one of the few modern programs to handle a lesbian couple without preaching it.
Yeah.
In
yeah,
fact,
it's
they
just
actually
treated
awarded
very
Peabody
normally.
Award.
Hmm.
Let
The
me
fact that the
let me
show
just
was actually awarded
okay. So let me get this straight. So there was Star and Games ending on the same date, and the Owl House and the Loud House handling gay relationships well, and very someone needs to use the nickel joke.
Hmm. Oh yeah. If I had a nickel for every time that a modern show would portray a lesbian couple without preaching it, or that a show would have a really bad and famous ending on the same day, I have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. No, sorry, can't go with that. I've heard it so many times on the Loud House wiki now, it's like, it's lost all fucking meaning for me. What's his name? The guy that does that joke every day.
It's hilarious anyway. It's like how did we get two moments like that?
Yeah. And again, another Phineas and Ferb joke, fitting for a podcast about Disney Channel cartoons.
And I have to say though, as much as I love Amphibia and the Owl House, there is a recent Disney Channel program that has surpassed them for me.
Right.
Big City Greens.
Okay. Never seen that either, but yeah.
Okay.
I
I've never
started
watched
watching
Big
it.
City Greens.
I started watching it nearly a month ago, and my gosh, was I in love!
Yeah, it looks like a really fun show, but I haven't watched it yet.
It's
I've never watched Big City Greens.
it's a very engaging slice of life program that still manages to get very outlandish once in a while, like the Loud House.
Yeah.
And the writing is very good overall. There's a lot of good little jokes. There's a lot of good chemistry. And my favorite episodes are usually the ones centering around Tilly or Gloria.
Or no, Gloria Sato is not that bad. She's also voiced by Anna Kana, similar to who also voices Sasha.
Oh yeah, she's a brilliant actress, honestly.
Yeah.
I showed Alana a clip of Big City Greens where Cricket was being chased by Gloria, and his dad sees what's happening, and he just says he probably deserves it.
Yeah. That is actually hilarious, though.
Such a great moment. And aside from Big City Greens, I've also taken a liking to Primos.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard
Oh
about that
no!
too.
Oh no!
What's wrong?
I never, I didn't like Primos to begin with, following that early, that early concept of the show because of the controversy that's revolved over it.
Well, that's the reason. That's the reason I've heard of Primos. It's like, all right, something controversial happened, then they delayed it to fix it, and here we are now. And I'll just say this about Primos: imagine if the first season of The Loud House was holistically solid.
Alright.
All right.
Yeah. Holistically speaking, guys, FMB really doesn't like season 1 of The Loud House.
I don't mind it. I just don't love it. It's like there's no reason for me to watch it now. Now that Primos is a thing, and if I really want to be nitpicky, like I'll just like season 1 of The Loud House. It's literally Tom and Jerry and Malcolm in the middle in the blender, and not coming out nearly as well.
I
It's
don't
basically
know.
like a strode. It's basically like a strode. You combine a road and a street, and it's fucking terrible.
I don't know. You overhate season 1, mate.
That's because you don't have standards.
I have very high standards, actually. Usually to the point where you have a go at me for it.
Then use them.
Oh, I will use them, mate. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Primos is a very good program. You have a likable main character with big ambitions and learns to be a bit more realistic through her interactions with her cousins or primos, I guess the program says. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of plot variety. It's very engaging. It's very well done. All that stuff. Like Big City Greens is a funnier program, but Primos is a more emotionally engaging experience. And that's pretty much it for favorite Disney Channel programs,
I mean,
particularly
if
modern
we are
ones.
to briefly touch on the more, the classic nostalgic shows, I mean, a show that I was sort of into as a kid because I was a big fan of Toy Story was Buzz Lightyear and Star Command. I won't go on much about it, but it was a solid enough sort of show at the time. I didn't actually get to watch that much of it back in the day because back in the day you had to pay extra money to watch Disney Channel in my country. It was like, but the episodes I did watch and the movie that it had were pretty solid. It was pretty funny, and obviously I was just a big fan of Toy Story, so it was like, keep in mind originally Toy Story 2, and we touched on this in the podcast we did about that film, if you remember.
Yep.
It was originally going to be a classic 2D animation sort of film before they decided to make it another CGI movie. And you almost think like Buzz Lightyear and Star Command is the closest we've ever had to that original vision of Toy Story 2, where it would be a normal 2D animation. And for what it was pretty good. But yeah.
I haven't watched the program, but I have watched the movie. It was
Yeah.
all right from what I remember.
Yeah, it was quite a
And
funny film actually. It just sort of like took the piss out of all the cliches about Space Ranger films and buddy cop movies and all that sort of thing. And it was quite a funny film actually, and it had some surprisingly tense moments. But that was like kid me watching that. Maybe I had lower standards back then. I haven't seen it in a number of years.
I did learn that Buzz Lightyear Starkman was written by people who later on went on to do Kim Possible.
Yeah, that's another one I suppose that's briefly worth touching upon. Again, I've only watched parts of that, but I remember it being quite good from from what I saw of it. And obviously, that's like one of the biggest cartoons of the Disney Channel from I'd say the 2000s. Does
There
anyone
was,
have any
there,
particular thoughts on that show if they've seen it?
Uh,
Impossible?
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I only find it fine. I didn't have much to comment.
Hmm.
I've never seen it.
I also am a big fan of Recess.
Oh, I do remember that show from when I was a
Oh
kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen a few episodes of that.
one show that I watched as a kid.
Yeah. Like that again, Recess was another one of the shows that like from that era of the Disney Channel was like it was a really big thing around 2000 when it was out. I remember
Late
being a
90s,
really
early 2000s.
yeah, it was a really popular show at the time. It's not particularly aged well from a popularity point of view. Like most people don't really remember it that much now. But it was a really popular show when it was out. I remember when I was a kid, and a lot of people did used to talk about it actually.
Here's a fun fact. Recess was produced by some of the people who worked on the first 3 seasons of Rugrats.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, that's interesting.
Paul Germain, particularly,
Ah,
and
I
interesting.
actually didn't know that.
you could definitely tell because the like Recess is kind of similar to early Rugrats in a lot of ways, where like it's kind of like it's similar in some ways, but it's also very different. It has its own identity, and a lot of engaging narratives that have a lot of adult subtext. Like I remember an episode where TJ got was getting into something the kids were getting into, like these cards or whatever, and started to gather a lot of them, and essentially it was like tackling something related to like when corporations get loads and loads of money and they become hungry for more.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like a kid's story but with adult subtext, and it was very interesting.
Yeah.
And how ironic that it was a Disney program.
Yeah. I suppose that's the thing. I mean, even back then, there were some very solid Disney cartoons. Over the years, Disney Channel has produced a lot of quite high quality content. It's also produced a lot of duds, and also I suppose we've got to remember Disney Channel isn't just a cartoon, a network like the actual Cartoon Network. It's more like Nickelodeon, where you've got a mix of live action and animation. But to be perfectly honest, I don't really care much for its live action shows. Um, for the most
I
part, there's the
remember
odd one that's all right,
I,
but
I do remember Hannah Montana being big, and I could not stand it.
yeah, a lot of shows are
yeah,
popular just
I
for
was never
weird
a fan
fucking
of
fad reasons.
Yeah,
live action shows from Disney.
I do want to mention two more Disney cartoons because I have watched The Proud Family,
Yeah,
Alana, The Proud Family.
I haven't watched it, but I've heard a lot about it.
yeah,
It was kind of revolutionary in a sense that it was a slice of life program focusing on an African American family.
yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, there were live action programs that did that, but not really cartoons.
Not that I could
Yeah,
think
not
of.
that many I've seen.
I do have to say though, The Proud Family has not aged well.
Mm,
There's a lot about it that's wrong. Like I think even back in the day, there's a like not only do you have like some very bad animation, it can also engage in propaganda at times.
yeah.
And
There's one
Louder and
thing you should
Prouder
know where else.
and the Louder and
One thing
Prouder
you should
reboot, from what I've heard, apparently engages in that stuff more.
Oh dear.
Hey,
Yeah,
there's
I
one
saw
thing that
that
you
one
should
clip.
also know about.
Like there was that one clip
There was,
from Prouder and Louder where they said slaves built our country, and I just want to punch the screen.
oh,
Ooh.
there's one thing They
They
also changed it
reference
to
the
other
Illuminati and the New
programs.
World Order in a children's cartoon.
Yeah. Well,
At least I,
technically, doesn't
at least I
Gravity
think the
Falls
reboot.
spend the entire second season referencing the Illuminati? When you think about it,
Uh,
FMB.
was it in
Bill
your face?
Cipher, Bill Cipher is a reference to the Illuminati.
But was
He's
it
a
in your face?
yes, he was in your face the whole time. The whole time he was right in your
Hey, there's
face.
All right.
by
Yeah,
the
Bill
way,
Cipher is literally the symbol of the Illuminati. He's a fucking pyramid with an eye on it.
yeah, the Eye of the Providence.
All right. But do they bring?
Yeah,
But
no,
do-
it's
but
the Eye of the
but do
Providence.
they bring it? But do they bring it up that it has relation to Black history?
Ooh, I don't know. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
I
it.
don't know.
That's what
Hey,
I've
there's one thing
heard, at
about
least.
Right. I don't
hey, there's one thing about the crowd validation. Though they also changed the character design for the Chang triplets. If you remember, they looked more stereotypically Asian in the original. You know the
know.
trip. You know the Chang triplets
Oh dear.
from the show.
Right.
Yeah,
And what
they
was the
changed
other show you were
changes
going to
and louder
mention?
parts of.
Yeah, so actually, one of my favorite Disney Channel programs, looking back, is the Lilo and Stitch cartoon. Anyone's watched that?
Oh, I've
Oh
seen
yeah,
Lilo and Stitch. I haven't. I've watched clips of the cartoon. I've not seen the whole thing. One
actually, it's my
interesting thing
favorite.
about the Lilo and Stitch cartoon, I think it was the beginning of the career of Liliana Mommy, who obviously voices Lenny Loud, and she was Myrtle
Yeah,
Edmonds, the bully in that show.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's
It
kind of
is.
funny to watch
yeah.
clips from that show of her, considering that she went on to play the nicest character in the Loud House.
It's the Lilo and Stitch series is actually quite good. Like, it's not as good as the original movie, but it does come close at times.
Yeah.
It's
Remember,
basic. It's
Lilo and Stitch
basically a
is
Disney.
also a hub for crossover.
I think something you notice is that in the 2000s, like a lot of children's channels try to do their own Pokemon. Like Cartoon Network had Ben 10, and Fox had Digimon or something like that, and Disney has Lilo and Stitch.
Mm.
It's like Stitch is Experiment 626, so where are the other 625? It's like, that's a bit high of a scope for a series, isn't it? Especially only 65 episodes.
Well, you could assume a lot of them are dead because they would have been failed experiments that were probably incinerated or something.
No. In the film Leroy and Stitch, at the end, there's like in the credits, you see the names of all 625 experiments. Some of them are given very lazy names like Game Over.
Oh dear.
That's funny.
It's like, yeah, trying to come up with 625 names.
Well, you've got name generators nowadays, haven't you?
But they didn't have that back then, really. So,
No. Well, they could have came up with something.
so actually,
By the way,
one more thing I will say, the Lilo and Stitch cartoon, and really some of the cartoons like Kim Possible, they're interesting in that there's some of the earlier cartoons, as far as I'm aware, especially from Disney, to be created in high definition.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, you would see them on CRT televisions, but if you see them now on modern TVs, they have aged better than other like programs that are stuck in 4:3.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And though some of them were remastered, though some of the older ones were remastered, like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and oh my gosh, how come we didn't mention DuckTales,
Which one?
the 2017 reboot?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, technically there's
oh,
two DuckTales. There's the one all the way back from the late 80s as well. And of course, there's the reboot. And I have watched that actually, and it is really, really good. A really, really good series. I'd say it's better than the original. So when people say reboots are always bad, I'm like, well, the DuckTales reboot's better than the original. And the original was pretty solid. So there you go.
The original was one of the better 80s cartoons, if not one of the best.
Yeah.
And the reboot, it's probably one of the best 2010s children's cartoons.
Yeah, pretty much.
I haven't seen either one of them.
And also, like Avatar and
neither do
Gravity
I.
Falls, DuckTales only has, 3 seasons? And again, it's a short but sweet cartoon that didn't outstay its welcome. and it also has its own version of Mabel with Webby Vonderquat, literally voiced by the same voice actress.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, the DuckTales reboot started off very strong and just got better with each season. Once
Yeah,
again,
like it got all of its characters were really fun and enjoyable. Its stories were usually pretty fun and engaging as well. It was just generally a very strong series. So yeah,
so it's like Disney as a whole has a lot of good content, like when it comes to their animated programs, and it does make me slightly more tolerant of their politics. But Gilbert here is not tolerant of their politics because it led to Haley's On It being cancelled.
oh here we go.
Yeah, not just other shows, bro.
Yeah,
Already named 3 shows that were somewhat canned.
yeah. I mean, it's not the only one, is it? I think what was the Ghost of Molly McGee also canned as well recently.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of
Yeah, they
shows with
scrapped the third season.
To be
Scrapped
fair,
the third season.
To be fair, I don't really look back on the Ghost of Molly McGee that fondly.
I mean, I've only seen
The
clips of it.
one
It
thing,
seems all right, but yeah,
It has a very good
oh,
first season and a very middling second.
the one thing that actually pissed me off with Disney in recent times is how they treated Milo Murphy's Law back in 2018, summer
yeah. Well, that's another
2018,
thing
when
because Milo
they had
Murphy's
to
Law was obviously written and made by the same people who did Phineas and Ferb, and I do have to
yes, and
almost
it's supposed to
wonder.
be
Yeah, with Milo Murphy's Law, I've seen bits of it. It is a solid show, but I'm going to be honest, it never really captivated me in the same way as Phineas and Ferb. And there's two things have happened here. Either one, Milo Murphy's Law just
yeah.
isn't as good as Phineas and Ferb, or two, Milo Murphy's Law did not have the same advantage I brought up earlier. Phineas and Ferb came out at a time when there wasn't a lot of competition and it was able to thrive. Milo Murphy's Law came out several years later when there was far more competition in the realm of cartoons, and maybe it just didn't succeed as well. Maybe Phineas and Ferb was lucky to come out when it did, and that also does bring me back to the reboot, not the reboot, the continuation. Is it going to be as successful purely this time because I think it's got more to compete with? I don't know. What do you
They'll
guys
probably
think?
do fine.
The one thing that they milk about Milo Murphy crossover.
Yeah.
Also,
The one thing that Disney
also,
tried to
from
milk
what
Milo Murphy's Law on is the Phineas and Ferb crossover.
Uh,
I've heard of the crossover. I've heard middling things about it.
yeah.
I've also watched a few episodes of Hamster and Gretel, and it was fine. Nothing amazing.
Yeah, I've heard of that, not seen it.
No,
But yeah, we're nearly an
It
hour
looks
into this.
okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah, we're nearly an hour into this now, so I'm going to try and wrap it up. But
just quickly, Phineas and Ferb was probably Dan Povermere's lightning in a bottle, and everything afterwards, can't help but feel inferior.
well, again, I don't know. Was it the fact that it was that great of a show, or was it just the fact that Dan Povermere is a good but not particularly outstanding creator who had a very lucky break with Phineas and Ferb? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Here's a fun fact: Dan Povermere had some involvement in the early Family Guy episode.
Right. Okay.
And I know how much you have a hate boner for Family Guy, dude.
I don't hate Family Guy. I can. Family Guy is a bit of a weird thing, and this is a tangent. Actually, is Family Guy taken over by Disney now? I have no fucking clue. I know
Yes, they
Simpsons
are.
is. Fucking hell. Okay, so it is relevant then. All right. Family Guy. It's a show. It's massively overrated, but I do acknowledge it is funny. If I'm in a completely casual mood and it happens to be on, I'll probably watch it, and I'll probably have a good enough time. It's funny, but that really is it. Its story isn't that good. Its characters are kind of shit. You know, it's constantly doing cutaway gags which detract from the overall quality of the show. I sort of get why it's popular, but I'm like, really? It's a very overrated show. And
I've heard this comparison before. With Family Guy, you remember the jokes. With South Park, you remember the episodes.
Yeah, and also classic Simpsons as well. A lot of people will compare Family Guy is like an inferior classic Simpsons, if that makes sense. It's
Family Guy is
focused.
good if you just want to enjoy the gags,
Well,
but
actually, I
not the
suppose no.
stories.
Family Guy is a more drastic, over-the-top version of modern Simpsons. So I suppose it's funnier than that, but in terms of like it's pretty similar in terms of like its story and its characters and everything. It's like
Family Family Guy does have the occasional banger. Like they did a 1 hour long murder mystery story that was actually very engaging.
yeah, I still can't believe Family Guy of all things is owned by Disney. It's like you think of
Disney owns American Dad and Futurama as well.
yeah. I mean, it's soon they did make a joke in South Park. Do I own South Park? No, not yet. Imagine Disney owning South Park. It just doesn't make sense. South Park exists to be offensive to everything. If Disney owned South Park would not work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that is what it is.
Mandatory would come off Disney for sure.
And that also is a thing going into the future with Disney shows, cartoons, movies, etc. Disney now owns so much. It's safe to say they're the dominant company in the media industry today. With that in mind, do you think the quality will start to detract once they don't have anything to compete against?
Disney nowadays is basically what RCA was in the 70s.
Yeah.
A
Not just
business called
cartoons, it owns the entire media industry. It's taken over Star Wars, Marvel, all sorts of things.
I can't see it
And
taking over like
and don't forget
everything, but just
Fox.
like a lot of things.
Of course, when they own stuff like Star Wars and Marvel, they can reference it in their cartoons. Like Amphibia references the Star Wars prequels in one scene.
Yeah, and of course, as soon as they took over all these franchises, as soon as they took over Marvel, Phineas and Ferb did a Marvel special. As soon as they took over Star Wars, Phineas and Ferb did a Star Wars special. Oh my god, do you think they're actually going to do a Family Guy special? Phineas and Ferb and Family Guy crossover?
No, they're not. No,
Like,
they're
they
not.
might do that
No,
based on fucking
no.
history.
This is
From
terrible.
previous records, they might do it. Or a Simpsons crossover. Why the fuck not at this point?
Or what about a Shaun of the Dead crossover?
They did Shaun the Dead appear. They appeared in Phineas and Ferb, didn't they? For about 10 seconds. In the
Night of
Yeah.
the Living Pharmacist.
yeah, and Shaun and Ed of all people show up. You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing that. Shaun the Dead's a really underrated film. I'm glad they did reference that. Dan Poffman obviously knows his shit.
Lots of me. Lots of me.
Yeah, I actually would like to see Simon Pegg and Nick Frost appear in Phineas and Ferb at some point. Just
When I
get them
heard
in there.
when I heard Doof said that, I thought he was saying lots zombie.
Oh yeah, lots of me. Right. Anyway, we're an hour long now, so we're gonna have to wrap up because yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, Disney Channel has had tons of great cartoons over the years, also some middling ones. The future of Disney Channel programming is a bit uncertain at this time, given the current landscape of things. But then again, with
AI
shows as strong as The Owl House and Amphibia recently, you've got to think there is some hope for it there. And even if not, it's had some great highs, absolutely. So, I think we'll wrap it up there. I know all of you guys you've watched more Disney programming than I have. But yeah, it is what it is.
Once again, it's a lot of fun having you, Alana,
Yeah, it's been fun.
and Gilbert. Oh, and Alana. Give the Proud Family a watch. You will cringe a lot.
I might.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, thank you all for being on.
Can't believe they referenced the white supremacy in the Proud Family reboot.
Right. All right. So anyway, on that note, I think we'll end it there. Thank you all for being on this podcast. It's been really great. And what about you guys? Everyone listening to this, you got any thoughts on any particular Disney Channel cartoons? Let us know in the comment section below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And we will all see you guys next time.